When would you say your first encounter with a composer was?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking about this question, because I had to think back. I wasn't actually sure, and then I remembered when I was a senior in high school, we actually had a composer visit for the first time with our orchestra because we were performing at the Michigan Music Conference, I believe is what it was called. I don't actually remember the formal name of the conference, but we were performing one of his pieces at this conference and he like flew out to come see us. And that was the first time I'd ever actually like been in a room with a composer.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It was fun. His name is Richard Meyer. I think he is the strings editor for Alfred Music and he's a string composer. But yeah, I mean, that was my first ever experience of being in a room with another composer, which to me feels a little bit late almost when I was thinking back, but it was pretty informative.
Were you composing a lot at that point as a high schooler, like as a senior in high school? Like, did that, I don't know, was that experience of meeting Richard Meyer exciting for you because of just because you got to meet a composer, play his music, and get feedback, or maybe did it go a little bit deeper than that?
I mean, it was really exciting, I think, because it was the first time of seeing like someone that was doing that thing as their career like in front of me because I had always known about like film composers and, that kind of music and everything. But those composers feel very far away when it comes to,
Oh yeah.
being in front of somebody who's actually doing the thing. And so that was one of the first times I'd actually been in a room with somebody doing that for their career. And that was like really inspiring to me. And I think it was really helpful to kind of think about like what I wanted to do going forward because I was composing a decent amount at this time. I actually had just taken like it was a music theory class. I think it was like AP music theory or something. And the teacher that I had for that class, I think he assigned us it was either an arranging assignment or a composing assignment. I think we had both of those throughout the
Mm.
semester and we got to learn like how to use finale and everything like that. And so that was my first like music DAW kind of exposure as well. So I think once I took that class, he was the first classical mentor I had that was like, "Hey, you should consider like doing this. If you
Right.
really like if you want to do this, you should consider like there are options for you. You can go to school. I can connect you with people I know that are at such and such university." And I was like, no one's ever said that to me before. That's so cool. I didn't even know that was an option. And so that was the first semester, or I honestly don't remember if we had trimesters or semesters, but that was the first part of the year. And then the second part of the year, I had talked to my orchestra director because she was not the person who was teaching the AP theory class. I think that was our band director, and I wasn't really involved. I wasn't in band. And so I talked to my orchestra teacher and I was like, "Hey, I'm really considering doing this. Can you help me? And can we work on this together?" And unfortunately, her response was like, "I don't know if you're instrumentally proficient enough to get into such and such
Oh,
schools that you're interested in." But, she did let me do an independent study where I just got to compose and kind of try to make a portfolio. She helped me in that way. And so I didn't actually end up auditioning for music school as a undergrad, like until I want to say, yeah, it was halfway through my freshman year is when I actually auditioned for like the music program at Michigan State. I was already there. Long-winded answer.
no, that's awesome. It's like kind of shocking to me that your teacher was so blunt. I'm kind of sitting here
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's a little intense. So what did you major in? I mean,
Yeah. I think I started, oh my gosh, it was a long journey. I started with I think political science. I was like, maybe I'll go to law school or something. And then I switched over to English because I was like really interested in creative writing at the time. And I think it was August of going into my freshman year that I did decide like I do want to look into doing music composition. And I was pretty set on that, but it had already been too late. I had passed the audition time and everything, and I didn't even, you know, I think at that time I was for a lot of different reasons I was kind of like trying to close the chapter of music for me because I just didn't believe that I could do it. I didn't believe that I was like good enough to get into those schools, and so I was like, I'll just try again later. And so I think yeah, it was August and I decided to walk into the chair of the composition department at Michigan State's office, and I asked him if we could have a meeting, and I kind of told him about my background and everything, and I showed him some music that I had written, and he was like, "We can absolutely help you,
Yeah.
create a portfolio. Like you can take lessons, your first semester here, and we can help you audition for the program." And I took piano lessons actually because this was the biggest hurdle of getting into the school was the instrument. And so my orchestra teacher from high school was correct. It was definitely, a challenge in that regard. But at the time, no one had mentioned or thought of the option of looking into the jazz department or anything. Just because I played electric bass, I was really proficient at that. That was my instrument, but we just didn't have a space for that in the classical department there. Or, I mean, the jazz department, yes, but it was mostly upright jazz, like traditional jazz bass. And so I auditioned on the piano and I was denied from the piano studio, but accepted into the composition studio. So it was a little bit of a hurdle, but I truly owe most of my I owe Rodney Whitaker so much in my life because he was such a wonderful mentor to me. But Rodney Whitaker, who is the director of jazz studies at Michigan State, he let me audition for him on electric bass. And he was the first person that told me, he was like, "You can do this. Anyone can do this music. And I believe in you and I want you in my studio." And so he helped me create an option for playing the jazz bass in school, but then also being able to study classical composition.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.